Here again with a video. Just wanted to talk about some things that I've currently been going through. Some of my prior videos was basically giving advice to people that are coming up, and mostly about real estate and finances, a little bit about religion. But this video is about finance, and just something that I've come across, and I feel like a lot of people, or I feel that a lot of people are like bullshitting, man, and in a quick word, in a nutshell, people are bullshitting, and the topic of this video is stop bullshitting and buy the Bitcoin, buy the Bitcoin, stop messing around with other cryptocurrencies, stop messing around with equities, stop messing around with real estate. Right now, the Trump administration is supposed to buy some mortgage-backed securities, make the interest rates a little bit more affordable for people to be able to afford a home. And that's good. That's a good thing. If you're gonna buy a home, you should buy a home. I gave some rules how to buy a home. And basically with the least amount of down possible, in a desirable area that you would want to live in, and make sure that you're buying a home and you're going to be in it for at least 10 years, because that's the only time where it's going to be worth it. It appreciates. It's an investment, but it's not a good investment. The only thing that makes it kind of worth getting real estate at a interest as an investment is if it appreciates. And real estate is just isn't gonna appreciate like that anymore. It's pretty much tapped out. Just like equities is tapped out. You could maybe get some returns in the NASDAQ, but the S&P 500 just really pretty much keeps up with inflation. And your home only goes up 1 or 2, 3% a year. And inflation might be 5%, so you're losing 2% of purchasing power. And these are things that you have to like manage, and things that you need to be aware of. And real estate it's not a good investment anymore. It's an investment, but it's not a good investment. But Bitcoin is still in its infancy. It's maturing, and it's an asset that it's a savings technology. Don't look at it as a don't speculate on it. Don't trade it. I always say don't trade it. Just buy the Bitcoin. If you want to trade it, this is like for more people that are advanced. And usually when you want to trade or leverage your Bitcoin is whenever there's a big drawdown, like a 30% drawdown, at least a 30% drawdown, and then you can go on Coinbase and get a margin loan on your Bitcoin. I think they do up to 70%, but that's risky, and you got to make sure that you buy the underlying asset, and then you could add it to your loan to value ratio, and it'll keep you from getting liquidated, because it may go down some more. But I feel like a lot of people bullshit, are buying like I was watching this video, big YouTuber, Cody Sanchez, and she's the one that I listened to one of her videos about real estate, and it was like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm living through. You do all this work for real estate to profit $300 a month. Let's hope nothing breaks either, because the services to fix, AC, electrical, whatever, plumbing, man, that's expensive. Now, if you're a hands-on guy, a person, and you know how to navigate that side of the business, go for it. Go for it. It's a learning experience. But in my experience, I think it's just better just to buy the Bitcoin, or buy the NASDAQ, and just let your money grow passively. You don't have to do anything. Let those other people work the business and whatever. And Bitcoin is just the one that's outgrows pretty much everything. Obviously, last year it didn't outgrow gold. Gold is another good play that I've said on prior videos too, that gold is the next big play. Then it'll be Bitcoin. But I feel like people, bullshit, too much with other cryptocurrencies, and there's money to be made in other cryptocurrencies, and that's fine, but make sure you're buying Bitcoin, man. Like you know, but don't trade it. It's just I feel like a lot of people want to trade it, you know, trying to catch up, you know, and I get it because everybody's, you know, stressed out, you know, about inflation and your income not keeping up with inflation, you know, but it is what it is, you know. You just got to make the best of it, you know. You got to see it Bitcoin as a savings technology, which is what it is. With an investment, it's still an investment right now. It's still cheap enough to be an investment right now. Bitcoin is going up, you know. Obviously I don't recommend, but it doesn't matter if it's up or down, you know what I mean, you know. Just buy it. And well, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. And another video, I'll link that video below if I don't forget. Hopefully I'll try to link it, you know, where she is talking about things that we overspend on. And you know, one of them is fast food, you know. And fast food has just gotten so expensive that it's kind of like you're going to a restaurant now. Like, damn, you know, like a dining restaurant, you know. Obviously the portions at restaurants have gotten smaller, but you know, it's just, it is what it is. You look at a burger, man, it's like the size, you know. You could probably clutch it with your hand. If you have a big enough hand, you could probably clutch it all in your hand, man, which is crazy, you know. And you know, this past weekend, you know, I actually had some ground beef, you know. And I made some burgers with it, you know. And obviously ground beef is like what, like $6-7 a pound, you know. You get your 2 pounds, you know. I had put a little beef tallow and made some beef tallow fries, man, that stuff was so good, dude. It was ridiculous, you know. You'll probably spend, you know, what, 20, the better of $20, or maybe even the 30-40 bucks that it is for 2 people, and you can feed your whole family with it, you know. That difference, you know, you can invest it into Bitcoin, you know. Right now there's a lot of credit cards that give you Bitcoin rewards, you know. Not endorsed by them, you know. I use them, you know. And those Bitcoin, man, it adds up, you know. I say Bitcoin, they call it stacking sats, you know. Whenever you stack sats, you know, it's like you're working out, you know. Everything counts. Every little sat counts, man. It does count. You know, the where people get in trouble is they start trading and trying to make something out of nothing. And I get it, you know what I mean. It is. I know it's our society. We live in a gambling culture that's kind of, you know, everything's kind of messed up. But yeah, man, that's just the video that I wanted to talk about. You know, there's other little things, you know, you could save. You know, like streaming. That's you know, like if you're streaming, you know, or going to college, like you could get a college degree, not a college degree, but like a minor on YouTube for free, you know. The only subscription that I see that kind of is worth it is premium, YouTube premium, where, you know, you get a lot of entertainment, you know. Maybe Amazon Prime is pretty good, you know. Obviously, you know, you just gotta manage your expensive, you know. And anything that you can do to buy Bitcoin, man, it's gonna help you in the long run, man. And it's helped me, you know. Obviously I'm not rich, I'm working class, blue collar electrician, you know. I was gonna upload a video, I just haven't had time, but about, you know, tools and things that you need as an electrician, you know, things that I recommend. And yeah, man. And also another one is buying new cars. Like, don't buy new cars, you know. Like, what are you doing? You know, at least buy a used car. I know they're not cheap, and the used cars are not cheap anymore, you know. A good used car, you're gonna have to spend about 10 grand, you know, to get you a good used car. But you know, another advice that I would give is that if you're willing to take the risk, you know, there's salvage cars out there, you know, that you'll get I currently drive a salvage vehicle, you know. There is more risk involved in it, but if you have the cash and you're willing to take the risk, there are lending companies that are lending the money to get a salvage vehicle, but the interest rate's kind of high, you know. So that's on you if you want to do that. I don't really recommend that, you know. It's just better just to buy cash. Make sure you have the title in hand, depending on your state, whatever type of title that you, however they run the title. Obviously here in Texas they kind of changed it a little bit, but I've always bought salvage cars and I've always had, you know, great value, you know. They lasted me, you know, because you're basically getting a car that lost 50% of its value almost, you know. They're probably gonna give it to you for like 40% off, you know. So you're buying like a 2-year-old car, you know, with low mileage, and it'll last you at least, you know, because a car is an investment, you know. like everything is an investment. You know, obviously you need to get to work. You know, in our society, we need a vehicle to get us to work. You know, and to get a good job. You know, to get a good job. So of real reliable car is needed in our society nowadays. It's not a good investment, you know what I mean? But you know, I would argue that a good reliable vehicle is a better investment than a home. I could even argue that, you know. Obviously, it's depreciating, but you're getting value because you're getting to and from work. And but yeah, man, those are some things, you know, some advice that I would give to people that they might be able to help them. Bitcoin, I'm always going to recommend Bitcoin. I don't recommend you trading Bitcoin. I don't recommend real estate, you know, unless you're going to live in it, you know, start a family. But yeah, man, I'll link that video below. And it's a really good video, really interesting video, you know, that I've watched, you know, and I listened to. I didn't watch it. And yeah, man, we live in interesting times, you know. I'll give some other predictions. Well, I guess I'll give it right now. You know, I think, you know, gold is going to be the next play. Gold is going to go up to, the government's going to revalue gold eventually once they get Jerome Powell out the Fed chair. They're going to revalue gold maybe in the next year or so, you know, to get more liquidity, you know, and into the bank, the government wants to devalue their debt, you know. It is what it is. So you have to prepare yourself and buy assets, you know. You have to buy as many assets as you can to keep you from losing purchasing power, you know, to keep you from being broke. Because if you were just a wagey, you know, which most people are, you're getting screwed, you know. You're getting ripped off, you know. And it's funny, you know, everybody, like, nowadays you can kind of see, you know, everything's out in the open nowadays. You can see who's with who, and you know, we see like the central banks, and they're all unifying. They see they're coming against Bitcoin and crypto, trying to destroy the industry or just tame it, you know. They want to control it, you know. That's basically when they want to get all the profits, you know. But Bitcoin was created, you know, obviously, you know, it's created by some whatever, I don't know whoever's created, but you know, it's a savings technology for the people, you know. I mean, eventually it'll get co-opted, you know, but that's down the line, you know. It is what it is. Well, yeah, man, just keep your head up, man. Keep working, man. So keep making money, building skills, you know. It's funny, you know, I think Larry Frank in a video said that there's a problem in our country, in the United States, that our country is based off of white collar jobs, you know, and that's not needed anymore. White collar jobs are getting hard to go by, you know. They're getting laid off, you know. But blue collar, man, it's booming, man. It's booming. Wages are going up in blue collar. It's crazy, man. People are making so much money doing blue collar and being a worker, you know. That's the next play, man. You know, if you could get you some skills, you know, welding, and this is not even hard. You just got to put effort to it, you know. A lot of those skills that I've learned, you know, in the trades, you know, it's through YouTube, you know. Like I said, YouTube, it's a game changer, man. So yeah, man, just get this information, man. If you get any value from it, you know, just leave a like, you know. I'm not sponsored by anybody, you know. I try to be as authentic as possible, you know. It is what it is. I ain't trying to promote nothing or sell a course. I probably should sell a course and make some money, but nah, I'm not trying to do none of that, man. It is what it is. You know, I'll come back again with another video.